Hey, folks, we're back at it again. It's Lindsey Huddleston with the SPS Edge podcast taking place. It's the SPS Edge Show with Terry McCord Jr., my great co-host, holding it down. And we got some other people going to join us throughout the hour, including Orlando Watkins, who always keeps us together. He's Houston, but lately he's been making his great cameos because this is his time of year as a coach. And, of course, we're going to have the basketball insider, John, bringing it to us with a little support from Patrick, too. Shout out to Patrick as well. So with that, what a day in sports. It has finally happened, Terry. You are no longer in high school, so you don't have that same anxiety, but the MHSA has made the announcement. Winter sports will start. They are back. Governor Whitmer announced today that they're allowing full contact, specifically for basketball, girls and boys, and it will be a mask-type situation. Players will have to wear masks. They're looking to be some more clarity on whether a team if they all test negative, if they can play. I think there's an all-in or all-out type situation. MHSA is giving more information. Also, you can play up to 3 games in a week. Contests start as soon as Monday. So, a lot of these young players, Terry, have been waiting to go, been waiting to get at it, but it's going to be time. And I think it's something we got to keep in mind, especially when you see all these blue bloods having challenges in college basketball, like the Michigan States, the North Carolinas, the Dukes, and et cetera. A lot of these programs got to be ready for what's to come. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you said it perfect. With them playing next Monday at the earliest, we don't know if that's gonna be done, but not much prep time, not much time. The scrimmage go up and down. I mean, we both know that there is a big difference between one-on-one drills against cones than against other people. So I think it's gonna be a little bit of a shock towards new up-and-coming varsity players. As I know myself playing sophomore year, I love the practice times because I learned a lot every practice. So I think it's going to be key for them. But I think these kids are just happy to go out and play. I think without even having a practice, like even for tryouts, like kids just want to go scrimmage. They want to play ball. So it's good news that the MHSA is starting to get these guidelines out. Governor Whitmer's done a great job, being very clear about her message and what she wants to see. And I think that's key. I think right there, her letting us know what she wants done, and now we just have to execute it, make a plan, whatever we have to do. So I think it's going to be key.
Just like clockwork, you must have heard me thinking about you, Orlando. Want you to come on in and give your perspective as a coach as well as a supporter of the podcast. What do you think, Coach?
It's good that they can get back to play, but I think we're kind of glossing over all of the other issues that go along with this. Your major programs, your strong programs will be fine, but your smaller schools, your weaker programs are going to suffer. I mean, they were suffering before COVID. Now they're really going to suffer because right now you're not going to they don't have the participation that these other programs have. You're going to see a lot of high school teams opt out of their seasons period because they just don't have it. They do not have enough kids to play. Right. And the bottom line is that a lot of these kids have picked up full-time jobs because they have to help support their families.
Are they doing a freshman year, freshman through senior, not freshman ball, but freshman JV and varsity ball, or are they just doing one level?
Well, it all depends on where you're at. Now, here in Detroit, you just have the JV and the varsity level, but out in the suburbs, you've got the freshman JV high school, and everybody's cleared to play.
Okay.
Including middle school. And I think the middle school is up to, whatever, the school district, whether they want to move forward with a middle school team. But you're going to see incredible gaps in competition. And, especially everybody's kind of glossing over the fact you've got these programs where you got your D1 caliber athletes, your D2 caliber athletes. They're in it to win it. They're fighting for that scholarship, but you have these other programs that second tier, that third tier type of program where you just have kids that enjoy the game of basketball. And at this point, right now it's a choice of, whether, I'm going to help feed my family or play basketball. They're going to choose to help feed their family.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing that they're kind of glossing over is really the fact, most of these kids are still at home for school, so that presents a challenge because now I'm going to hold a practice, Now my kids get off a line at say 3:30, and I'm calling practice at 4. Mom and Dad's still at work. I'm gonna have to try to get them up to the school. So it's the product is going to be less than exciting for the most part, but at least it's something.
Yeah, and I think too, Orlando, and I appreciate that. I totally agree. And me watching Michigan State, for an example, has shown me that though you may want to get back and play, there's so many other factors that come into play. And I think people aren't ready for the actual fallout that's going to happen when that top-rated team. To your point about the smaller programs, their challenges, but I think we're going to see some challenges with some top programs too. And as much as I hate to say it, going forward doesn't mean people still can't get COVID.
Right.
Programs can't get COVID. Programs can't have to sell because at least now with the limitations and the no contact, there's been limitations. That's something to think about. What do you think, Terry?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've seen that through with the Big Ten football play, with specifically like Ohio State, Wisconsin. We've seen their games be postponed and players not back yet to return to competition because of protocol. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how because one, the Big Ten, they wanted to continue to make their money on TV with TV networks and, you know, getting those high rating games. But also you want to see how much, you know, they're willing to prioritize high school games because say a program gets COVID, how long are they going to be out? Is there going to be much of a guideline to follow? So like, oh, we have to sit out for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, or does that player have to sit out like you mentioned with the all in or all out? So I think that's something that we got to keep an eye on and seeing how much of a priority, or if it's like a couple programs get in one area, that whole area is done. So I think it's something to keep an eye out for sure to see how we kind of label a team in an area if so many people get COVID.
Right, and then my whole thing is speaking of that, even with the mask issue. So if your school district can afford for your kids to test, they don't have to wear masks.
Ooh.
But my program can't afford to get tested. We have to wear masks. Where's the equity?
Yeah, equity is going to be an issue here going forward. I was going to ask you too, Orlando, before we move on to the next, just what do you think it's going to look like when we talk about these dates, particularly April 10th for the boys final, I think April 9th for the girls final? Do you see teams hobbling across the finish line? You know, do you see some teams being, having to be pulled out? Do you see this fragmented conclusion to the MHSA boys and girls basketball season?
It's definitely this is definitely the year where anything can happen. It is definitely you may have your favorites, you have your strong programs, but this is COVID. Is the I don't even know what to call it. It's equal. COVID is equalizing at this.
COVID is the dandada.
Yeah, because I mean, I see the stronger programs. They really got here campaigning. This is their year, but one case of COVID can absolutely ruin it.
And then, unlike the NFL, unlike the NCAA, where you have this accountability level because people can lose their jobs, go to these big time jobs. They got to follow through with the protocols, and you have like separate medical entities doing that, and nobody wants to lose their medical license because they didn't follow through. Now with the high school level, the accountability falls on to promote safe play, the officials, the coaches, and the administrators. And Orlando, and Terry, that can be a toss-up sometime. I do want to announce that the SPS will be looking at promoting a safe play campaign. If everything stays as planned, I'll be at Bridgeport High School with Coach Kevin Marshall next week to kind of watch their practice, Orlando, to be able to kind of highlight the right way to do things. As you know, Kevin Marshall in Bridgeport was one of those schools that got out early and look to get over to your alma mater as well, Terry Eastern. So with that, before we move on, Orlando, you got anything else you want to share on this topic? We're going to move into some other sports topics as well.
It's good that high school basketball is back, and just mask up and be safe.
And don't play with it. And we'll see. Orlando, we appreciate you. Want you to stick close to us, keep us together. Terry, we had to put that breaking news out there. But I want to talk about some other things. So a little bit of news, man, and I guess it's the blessing of having your own podcast and having a great guy like you and a great team. Let me just shout out to the team, man, the SPS team, Terry McCord, Orlando Watkins, also John, the basketball insider. Give Patrick some love, too. Here's the thing, man. Deshaun Watts and Brett Favre. Deshaun Watts, of course, has been making news because he's kind of holding out, saying, listen, the Texans are dysfunctional. I'm the most solid guy here. This is not him talking. This is what people are saying. I'm trying to get up out of here. I want to make a move. But Brett Favre comes out of nowhere and makes the comment, and I paraphrase, but it was close to the quote saying, hey, we make so much money, you shouldn't have an opinion. Those were his words. I mean, you saw this too, and I'm looking like that's crazy. And even when I saw Jason Williams, Keyshawn Johnson, and Zubin talking about it, then Dick Vermeil came on. Old school coach, I respect it, but Terry, it tripped me out because then it took some other people to make a point and say, well, wait a minute. Matthew Stafford just held out, and now he's going to L.A. Andrew Luck said, I quit. I'm not even playing with y'all no more. I'm straight. I'm done. And then let's go back to the Mannings. All due respect to the Manning family. That's, NFL royalty. Archie Manning said, no, my son ain't even going to go to the Chargers if y'all draft him. But when Deshaun Watson, who's had an impeccable career, who's been known as being like the face of football, doing all the right things, said, no, man, this is not working for me. Get me out of here. Somebody like a Brett Favre can come up and make that comment. So I just can't help but to think, man, I won't go as far, Terry, to say that it is just blatant racism, but I think it speaks to the psychology of racism. The psychology, Terry. Here's what I mean by that. How is that Brett Favre can look at Deshaun Watson and all of a sudden just start regurgitating all these comments about we make too much money, you shouldn't do that, like putting these limitations on. But nowhere did we hear anybody making comments about the people we just named. And I got to give shout out to Colin Hurd, not just because Joy Taylor is on there and she's beautiful, but on the Colin Hurd show, Colin even said it. And I always considered Colin to be somewhat of a conservative, sports journalist. But with all due respect, he was like, man, what's up with that? So I don't know, man. When I heard that, I'm glad Jay Will jumped on. I'm glad other people jumped on. But Brett, shut up, dude. You sound stupid. What do you think, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, for someone to come out and say that, I mean, we're talking about a guy who arguably retired just to go hop on another team. And I don't think it's him quitting. I would say Deshaun Watson has lost complete trust of the Houston Texans. And for someone that's in a league like the NFL and your career isn't really, it's not for sure, or, there's no given year that you have planned, at great health. I mean, he's making this move at a great time. I mean, we're talking about Stafford, like Mr. Cowherd talked about. Stafford kept his mouth shut, team player. This is about the team. Oh, it's our fault as the team. The Lions are going to get it together. He ended up staying there, I think, too long, and then decides to hold out and then goes to the Rams. You're talking about Andrew Luck, like you mentioned. He continues to get hit a ton. I mean, he gets hit a ton. I wouldn't say blame anyone, but Andrew Luck took a lot of criticism that he shouldn't have took. He's out of the league now. And then for Manning to say I'm not going somewhere, what a privilege to say that and not go for it. As far as I'm concerned, the Chargers are a team in the league. If I get a call saying come play for the Bengals, I'm going. What a privilege to be like I'm not going to go to that team. But for a guy who plays his heart out, I mean, there was a game where the snap was so low, they were down there by the goal line against the Colts. Snap was low, hit his foot, Colts recover, and they win. I mean, they were right there on the doorstep of winning. He's sitting on the sideline, just bawling his eyes out. I mean, you can just see the passion that he has for his game, his team, and for the game of football itself. And so I don't think Watson isn't showing his lack of passion. I think it's just loss of trust. And for someone that needs his team to be successful, and I think Watson is a team player, he needs his team, and he understands that without the organization trusting him to have his input on the new coach, the new GM, trading DeAndre Hopkins for G's sake. Like they traded his number one, and he still had better stats this year. So the man is going to give you his heart in this game. But, I mean, for them to not even talk to him, the franchise quarterback who they just paid, not even talking to him about who we should hire and who we should trade, that speaks on numbers of why he does not want to return to this team. So I really applaud Deshaun for making this move and standing down and not letting all these the outside noise get in the middle of how he's feeling, because they're completely valid. So, Brett, I don't know what you're talking about. You need to go look back at that retirement that you made with the Packers because they was gonna bring A-Rod up. So you better look back in the past, man.
Yeah, and even to stay on that for a second with Brett, I mean, he didn't support Aaron Rodgers. He didn't mentor him. He didn't help him out. You know, they say he was hard to deal with during those last years. He was difficult, almost like a prima donna. But I just think it speaks to the psychology again. And I love that we title ourselves a progressive sports talk show because it's talking about. I just want America to look at that. How Brett could just easily just run off at the mouth and say those type of things when there have been so many other quarterbacks who've done things that I would even argue that can be considered despicable compared to that. Like, look at the Mannings. How nobody really tripped on the Mannings when they said no, and that was Archie Manning saying, look, I had that Deshaun Watson experience as a quarterback in the NFL when I was drafted to New Orleans coming out of Ole Miss and whatever, when I had a horrible career and just really got beat down. I'm not letting my child go through that. You can respect that. But I just think it speaks to the society we're in, and I'm glad that the society is progressive enough. And for the most part, everybody called him out. Everybody like, Brett, you sound stupid. Like, shut up. You know what I'm saying? It was across the board. And the last thing I want to say, Dick Vermeil made the comment today, Deshaun Watson has had an excellent character, but I'm disappointed, as if him taking on this whole player empowerment terminology that we use so much, that's a problem. But you know what I'll say, man? I think it's just a slave mentality. You a black man in America, you're not supposed to be able to do what you want to do. And then I'm so backward thinking, Brett Favre, that when I see that, instead of me saying, let me compare him to the other quarterbacks, I just see you as a black quarterback, and I don't think that you should have the ability to write your own course, to create your own path, and he's considered a problem. The last thing I'll say about that, Deshaun Watson ain't been no problem for nobody. Exactly. He was like until Patrick Homeboy came over, Mahomes came through, he was looking at being the face of the NFL. I mean, they were kind of setting him up like that, but obviously Mahomes' trajectory just took off and he passed it. But it's just sad to me that a black man just trying to take care of his business is still vilified. Now, in all fairness, what does make me feel good is that it seems like the most of the talking heads are supportive of him. They get it. They understand it. But then you hear the Brett Favre's in the world. He just need to go sit down and shut up, man. You know, it's that whole shut up and dribble, beat it. You know, keep it moving.
You can even go as far back as John Elway when he got that baseball contract. You know, he was saying if I get drafted by, man, I forgot the team. I think it was a New York team that was going to draft. I want to say the Giants. I'm not really sure, but I know it was a team in the NFL that really was like they were number one. They were like, we're going to pick Elway. Elway was like, I'm not going there. If y'all draft me, I'm gonna take my my baseball contract. I think that was he was like, I'm gonna take my baseball contract. And no, I mean he got heckled a little bit about that, but I wouldn't say as much as far as other players, you know, like Favre, you know, saying like, you know, you gonna get this big contract and you gonna say no, you know, kind of thing. I don't think, you know, Elway got that much heat for it, but it goes to show that, you know, when someone is making a move that's gonna benefit themselves and, you know, arguably keep him safe. I mean, we're talking about a good team that's going to put people around him, get a good line, because the Texans line was horrible. I mean, I don't remember how many times he got sacked, but it was a lot, you know, a lot more than my fingers. So, I mean, so I always say that he's making a big move for himself, you know, and for him to feel safe around an organization that wants his input because he's going to play his heart out. I think he deserves to have some input.
Exactly. No, you make an excellent point. But we'll keep an eye on that and going forward. But staying with the theme, and I want to give you a public shout out, man, for putting a great lineup together. Next question is, who needs the Super Bowl more, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady? I think that was an excellent question. I've been pondering that all day, but I'll defer to you to get your thoughts on that.
I honestly would say, I think a lot of people would say Brady just because he's going to win without Belichick. But I think that the player that deserves it the most or probably would want it the most, I'd say is Mahomes, no doubt. Just because of the fact that a lot of people are riding his legacy on this one game, which I think is atrocious. Like, one game, the man's going back-to-back Super Bowls, and we're going to base a possible loss and to hurt his legacy? Like, no way. But, I mean, for Mahomes, though, we're talking about the new and upcoming baby GOAT. A lot of people called him. I've heard it like a million times on TV this week. But, you know, we're talking about the baby GOAT, you know, arguably has, you know, the best weapons in the league. His defense is playing really well, led by the Honey Badger. But, I mean, I think he has the most to lose and the most to gain because you're beating a guy like Tom Brady who, I mean, a lot of people are saying he's going to pass the torch to Mahomes if Mahomes win. So I think, you know, with what they have going on, I do know that they're at a disadvantage missing their tackles this week. And, hopefully everything's going well after that COVID incident with their barber.
What a close call, right?
Yeah. And Mahomes was a part of that. And I think, hopefully they haven't seen anything. So it sounds like they all tested negative. I know for sure that would have been on the headline news if Mahomes tested positive. But I think he has the most to gain. I mean, back-to-back Super Bowl. Young guy, he's still playing that large contract. It goes to show that contract meant something. I think is probably the most important part. That huge $503 million contract. I think that just goes to show that there's going to be a lot of success after this year.
Yeah, they see that. I can't necessarily answer the question who needs it most because I got caught up in a certain thought, and I blame America for making me feel even uncomfortable for thinking about it. But my thought was this, Terry. I think that America is going to take sides. America's going to take sides between Brady, All-American. Who do the conservatives have to root for? This is Donald Trump's guy. He wore the MAGA hat, though he downplayed it. He still has this patriot type thing. And then you have Patrick Mahomes, a biracial, quarterback that came out for Black Lives Matter and all these things. So I guess I've been caught up not so much in who needs it the most, but who America is going to side with. And I think America is going to part ways for the most part. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think the racial undertones always lead back. Remember when there was the 2 black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, and that was a big thing? Or then you may have a chance where there may be one African-American, competing for something big compared to another. And I just think that's just the underlying issue with America. Now, is it a bad thing? I won't say it's a bad thing. I just think that's something we readily identify. I mean, we go from having the topic about Brett Favre and what he said about Deshaun Watson, and now here we are talking about the tale of two cities, the tale of two quarterbacks, baby goat compared to the GOAT. Well, at the end of the day, who do I think needs it more? I think, honestly, man, if Patrick Mahomes win, which is like leaning towards they will. Now, I'm not saying they will. It's leaning towards that. Because my thing is Tom Brady is the MJ of football. If he's on the field, if he's out there, you got to worry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If he's breathing or if you give him the ball back, you got to worry because they say he don't do nothing spectacular. He's not like Mahomes. He's not going to throw a no-look pass, but he's going to pick you apart. That's an excellent question, man. And I think Tom Brady's legacy cannot be touched. I mean, at the end of the day, dude, they're talking about his jersey is still a hot seller in New England, meaning there are people in New England buying a number 10 jersey, that he's wearing number 12 jersey that he's wearing for the actual Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they just want to be a part of that. My prediction, if I give one, I want to lean towards the Kansas City Chiefs and what they have. But, dude, Tom Brady, how you go get – this is not like basketball. When LeBron James get traded to a team, they become a playoff and a championship contender. That don't happen in football. This dude got traded, and in one season, he took a team that has the lowest winning percentage of a sports team in all of the several hundred sports teams throughout America. Lowest winning percentage. He get traded there in one season in the Super Bowl. Come on, man. I mean, you can't hold him up. So we'll see with that. We're doing really good, Terry. We're going to keep moving through. Do you want to add any more into the Bucs and Chiefs matchup? You want to talk about that a little bit more, to add a little bit more before we move on?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed over the course of the week, a little bit of the division side. I think one thing a lot of people don't want to see Brady's legacy get touched at all. So like when people bring up Mahomes, people are a little sensitive about that, like with LeBron and Jordan. People don't really want to talk about that. But then again, we see the division within former Patriot players and current Patriot, a part of the staff. We see the division of like who really carried the Patriots. A lot of people are like, well, Danny Amendola, a lot of people say he's a little salty from getting traded away, because it was on record that he wanted to come back. But he was on there saying that, you see right here on the forefront, Brady was the guy, the Patriot way is Tom Brady. But everybody knows that you need to have a coach. You need to have stability. You got to have a guy that brings up these schemes that has helped Brady, flourish through those years, playing really well. You got to have, the Belichick's defenses were always top 10, it felt like. And so, I mean, we see some division there between former teams, former teammates, and for former staff, people on that staff. talking about who was more important. So I think it's something interesting to as this week concludes, as we keep talking about this epic matchup that's about to come. It's definitely something to keep an eye on who's saying who was the true Patriot way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, that's going to be something to watch, man. Super Bowl Sunday is here. Can't believe it's here. That's a good thing, and we're going to be ready for it. So what we can do, man, we can transition, and we can talk about college football. Yesterday was signing day. We almost forgot how things go. Yesterday was signing day, and got a chance to talk to Coach Mel Tucker. Also, be able to communicate with him. He's going hard in the paint. Hamp Frey, who's a highly touted quarterback coming in from Fort Worth, Texas. He's also be connected with Cam Allen, who is a new tight end. We got a chance to talk to. And for the first time in a long time, Michigan State is going to have a two-sport athlete in Keon, and I'm naming this kid the Freak Coleman. This kid is out cold, man. He's out cold. He talks trash. He's from NOLA. He's from New Orleans. And he is just like getting ready to take over. And it was a co-recruitment process. It was him along with, it was Coach Izzo played a huge role in bringing this guy to Michigan State so he can play both football and basketball. But what I want to do for the time that we have, I want to take a moment. I want to kind of introduce some folks to Cameron Allen, man. He's just a nice kid, man. I really enjoy talking to him. He's just a humble kid, and I thought it was really cool. So I'll just take a few moments, man. I want to share the interview that I had with him, and I want to bring that up right now.
Izzo loves those those two-sport players. He said that about Gary Harris too. He loved that Gary was such a good football player because you could see a lot of those, those gifts that he was given to play football translated to the court, like that dog mentality, his defense. So they love that over there at MSU.
Yeah, we'll take 2 minutes and listen to new tight end Cam Allen.
Hey Cam, welcome. A little advice about the snow. It'll come when you least expect it, so just keep that in mind. Also, to the COVID question, you are making history. You're part of this historic COVID class. Can you talk about when you were in high school and you saw the older players in high school getting recruited and you came to know the traditional recruiting process, but now you're part of this COVID situation? What was it like? Did you think it was in jeopardy? What was it like for you kind of getting ready for this when COVID started?
Yeah, it was kind of different. It definitely impacted recruiting because, I got started getting recruited by Michigan State in March, and that was like right after COVID breakout. That's when all the NCAA got closed. So at this point, we didn't know how long it was going to be closed. We don't know when they was going to open back up. So at this point, it's just you can't BS with anybody that you want to go to because the opportunity could close just like that. So I knew that I wanted to go to Michigan State. I knew that's where I wanted to be. So I wasn't going to waste any time trying to hold off on any offers, see if I can go to campus or any of that. Yeah, I knew that's where I wanted to be, so that's where I committed to.
And a real quick follow-up to that point, what advice can you give to future recruits, whether it's at Michigan State or people going through their process, when it comes down to making a decision? You say you didn't want to hold out, you didn't want to mess around. I mean, what advice can you give people?
Just to trust your heart and go where you feel that you're wanting most. Because I feel like everybody can show like that they want you here and that they love you so much, but you can tell the real from the fake. I mean, one coach is going to try to he's going to really be trying to recruit you. And then on the other hand, like how my Coach Gilmore was, it's just like he's going to show you realness. He's going to show you that he's going to be your father figure out here and that you can depend on him. And that's what I really want in the coach's staff.
Wow, thank you for that. Good luck.
Thank you.
Nice kid, man. I talked to Coach Tucker afterwards. I said I was blown away, as well as him and Hamp. Faye, these guys are just, excited about being here. And I think it's something to be said about that because we have to realize Coach Tucker came in with a lot of fanfare under the, cloud of COVID. And he coached, had a tough going this season. But these weren't his guys. These weren't his recruits. So when you hear a couple players like that, and you got Tavarius Tillman, the new cornerback coach, and we talked to him earlier today too. When you hear these guys talk, you get an idea of that culture that Coach Tucker had been talking about. I think it's something to be said. And when you go have a high-profile athlete like Keon Coleman coming in, man, and what he's going to do is going to be something. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's one of the important parts of recruiting is getting guys who want to be there and that take on that pride that MSU has for their football team. I think that's very important for a rebuilding process because you don't want to get guys that kind of want to be here, that not really, or this is my third option, or you want to get guys who made this their number one, and like he said, he mentioned that he wasn't playing around. Like he knew he wanted to come to East Lansing, Michigan, and play for a great coach and compete. And so that you could just hear in his voice that he wanted to come up here without a doubt and just play ball. And so I think that's something that you definitely need in a rebuilding process, guys that want to buy in, that want to, believe. And I will say this one thing quick. Although, this recruiting class was pretty good for Coach Tucker, I just want to let the fans know, give them time. I mean, the same thing with the rebuilding. It takes a couple of years. It takes 2 to 3 years that we've seen with Tom Allen and Coach Allen down there in Indiana. It took him 3 years to get to that level. And in his fourth year, we saw how, a rebuilding, buying in process can just explode and everyone's balling. I mean, we've seen that with Michael Penix, a guy that he's groomed into a great quarterback. So give Coach Tucker some time, with these new recruits and give them the buy-in to that Michigan State identity. They're gonna be playing with their chips, with the chip on their shoulder, and throw a little foreshadow that guy that flipped. There's gonna be a little chip shoulder on that. Rashawn Benny, he's gonna be a little Michigan State gonna put a chip on their shoulder and play real hard. It's something that they gotta adapt to this new identity of being that road dog, that underdog. So.
Those are the topics that they're going to put up on the board when they get ready to go and play these type of teams. Had a chance to talk to Hamp Fay as well, highly touted quarterback coming in. Had a quick minute with him. I'll share that with you too.
Chris really spoke to the question I was going to ask. You answered it very well, but I guess to follow up a little bit more, how do you get that across to your teammates, to your peers? It's one thing to be able to connect Coach Johnson and Coach Tucker, of course. How do you help get that across to teammates who aren't Cam from your home state of Texas or anywhere else?
And to clarify, Terry, what we were asking him about is his mental toughness and being able to, convey that to his teammates, and not only to Coach Tucker and Coach Johnson, the quarterback and offensive, the OC.
Yeah, I think it's just taking advantage of every opportunity that's given to me, whether it's in the weight room, in meetings, just small little interactions. I got to, win each moment. I mean, as small as it is, I got to, gain their confidence and their trust in me. So, I got to be able to do that and demonstrate, every day in the off season, throughout the summer, leading up into the season.
Great, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I mean, you hear him say that, man. I mean, he clearly has leadership traits. When you talk about him, wants to take advantage of just even being in the weight room with the guys and how he has to connect. I mean, that's clearly someone taking some ownership. At the early part of the football season, Coach Johnson came on. He told us that, he's looking for a CEO of a team. He's looking for someone who can take on that. And it seemed like Hamp Fay is doing just that, and I think that's going to be a good thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that for a team that right now is rebuilding, we saw their quarterback issues the year before. Rocky Lombardi is now returning to the team. And so, I mean, we're seeing a clear quarterback battle. I mean, Fay is trying to see if he can get a little bit of that mix, being that new kid in town. That's something that's important. He knows that he's going to have to win his teammates over, win the coaches over, and then the fans will win. You win the fans over by playing well, so you don't have to worry about that yet. Just worry about your team. Worry about the team, worry about the coaches loving you, playing hard, in practice right now, in the weight room right now, I should say, because practice hasn't really started yet. But, conditioning, winning those guys. And I think he mentioned it, just being around them in the weight room, elevator, anything he can be in the dorm room, just you got to earn their trust. And that's something that, as a leader, you got to earn your team's trust. No one likes to go into battle with a leader they can't trust. They're not going to listen to him. You're going to see clear division, and it's not going to go well. And I feel like times we saw that, this past year, because there wasn't much leadership at the QB position, and knowing that that's one of the most important positions on the field, he understands that, and so he's going to come out and try to win his teammates. I like that he said that.
Yeah, very good. It was pretty fractured, that. And I'll give a shout out to Michigan State, man. There's going to be a huge announcement tomorrow. Matt Ispia former walk-on who's part of that 2000 national championship team that won the basketball championship, is donating $32 million to Michigan State University, which is going to make it the largest donation being made in history. This surpasses Steve Smith donation several years ago with the Claire Bell Smith Center. Is huge. It surpasses Draymond Green's contribution. I mean, this guy's a billionaire with the B, that is. So that's going to be a huge announcement taking place. But also part of that money is going to go to expanding the football facilities. And I heard guys like Hamp Fake talk about how they're the early enrollees, so they're already on campus. So they got other commits FaceTiming them, saying, "What food are you guys eating? What are you doing?" And they're like going crazy over the facilities. Now you're going to add Michigan State's probably going to have one of the best facilities in the country. That's only going to help with recruiting.
Oh yeah, that's one of the selling points in recruiting facilities. You know, seeing how I can get better. You know, the weight room. Everybody loves the new stuff, especially like nowadays for kids like myself. You know, we love new gadgets. We love new weight rooms, anything new, we love it. Our eyes gravitate towards it. We're like, man, what's that? I like this coming here. That's one of the big things that, I'm sure Coach Tucker did, bringing them on campus. They're like, we got this new thing coming right here. We got new stuff, and they already like, I want to come here because I see this right here. I see the Claire Bell Smith Center. I'm like, I want to come here. I see all this tutoring they got upstairs. All the computers and all that. I think, it's easy to fall in love with MSU, as I would know, being on campus so much. But I think that's a selling point. You got to have the facilities in order to compete.
Yeah, and then also, just like in Duke, they're going to name the court, the Coach Izzo court. That's going to be part of the announcement, too, and what's going to take place. So we're going to start the shift right now to basketball. Before I do that, we're a little bit past the halfway mark. I want to shout out the Streets of Talking Podcast Network. Always good. Shout out Don Houston, my guy Clarence Sumo Babor. They're doing their thing. That podcast is growing, Terry. Not only is it in Detroit, Chicago, Las Vegas, there are people from Africa. That's right, representing on a global basis. And we're happy that our voice is a part of that. To all those who will be hearing us this weekend, including Super Bowl Sunday, we just want to say thank you guys for supporting the SPS Edge Show as well as the Streets of Talking Podcast Network. So let's shift here. We can make a little shift now to basketball. Pretty soon we're going to have our guy, John, the basketball insider, join us. But before we bring him in, I want to talk about this tough, streak that the Spartans have been on. Iowa versus Ohio, Iowa, the Iowa game, the Ohio State game, and these type of things do. Got a chance to talk to Tom Izzo earlier today. Let me go and share with you what we talked about, because I basically was asking, like, look, man, is this a time when you go back and you show more of an appreciation for what you've accomplished, with your national championship, with the Big Ten titles or whatnot? And this is the response I got.
Alluded to it when you said you're going to do some reflection later on based on tomorrow's huge announcement. Congratulations on that. I'm just curious, during this tough stretch, is there any way you can have even a greater appreciation for your national championship, greater appreciation for your Big Ten championship, now that you kind of have a moment to reflect back and look at it a little differently now with what's happening right now?
No, I don't yet. That's a great question. And I think I will when I really reflect back, at the end of the year. I mean, right now I don't think we're that far away. That sounds crazy. We've had some bad games. We played bad. But, you look at last night. I mean, I never seen so many teams lose. I watched Villanova lose to a team that wasn't very good. I watched Georgetown beat Creighton, and Georgetown hadn't won many games. I just saw so many different games. I mean, it's just the way it is right now. So I couldn't tell you what it's going to take to get in the tournament, what it's going to take to win the Big Ten. I just think there's a lot of unknowns, and I do appreciate, funny because I talked to Mateen this morning. He called, and I appreciate what it takes to win, and how much leadership and good point guard play, and you got to make shots. You can't make the little things do matter. I think that's what I reflected back on. I reflected back on the war game. We did it last week. We went at it 3 times a day. We rebounded better, It'd be easy for someone to say, well, why didn't you do it all year? And give you millions of reasons why we don't. But I think, Lindsay, my real reflection will come when the year is over. But I had enough guys that call me former players. This is when hopefully our family is at its best. We got a guy that's giving an amount of money that, hell, I told him, instead of giving it here, you could buy the whole UP with that, and including the bridge, I think. But it gives me great pride to know that people think of you and think of your program and think of what you do as a university that has impacted their lives enough to do something like that. And as I said, Mateen, a lot of guys are calling, texting, and it just makes me realize there's a way that it's got to be done. Maybe we weren't able to do all of that this year, and it affected us a little bit more because of a lot of things. But we're still in a position right now where most of our guys have had it. We're hoping there's not a round two for them. We're hoping we can start moving forward. We're hoping that I coach a little better and they play a little better. Between all of us, we kind of grow, and that's what's happened. It was Miles that sent me a text the other night that said that, with Coach, we're 11-9 my first year, we won 8 out of 10 or whatever we did, and that's kind of the mentality that we're trying to look at moving forward.
Thank you.
So with that, Terry, this is what we can do because these comments kind of roll each other. Let's get our basketball insider John to come on in, and we can talk about the picks. And I know we're going to talk about Iowa and Ohio State, Terry, but Ohio State at Iowa is the first game that's coming up. So what I'll do, Terry, I'll defer to you on Ohio State and Iowa and give John a chance to get himself ready. And then we can kind of roll into all these talking points for the sake of time, because that's part of what Izzo was talking about is probably going to go into your comments and whatnot, as well as a few. John, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. It's good to be here.
Always good to have you again. So I'll defer to the young Jedi. Terry, talk about Ohio State at Iowa.
Well, I think I saw a lot of weaknesses from Iowa in that Michigan State game that I think if Michigan State would have capitalized a little bit more, I think the game would have been a different outcome, would have had a different outcome. So I think the biggest thing about this game, I really like how MSU pushed the pace on Iowa and primarily pushed the pace on Luka Garza. I think he moves up the court very slow. Like it's almost like he's jogging, but I mean he's sweating, so I can't say he's jogging. And so I think Ohio State is really going to push the pace. One thing that I see with Iowa is that Iowa shoots. They get Luka Garza takes a lot of their shots, which is cool. He's clearly their best player. But last game he shot 9 for 18, and everyone else at most shot at least 7 shots. So I mean he's clearly a high volume shooter. I think if we try to neutralize him and try to slow him down, speaking for Ohio State, I think that it gives them a great chance to win because I don't really see anyone else really taking up the scoring load and being able to carry them to a win. Ohio State has won 3 straight. I really like E.J. Liddell. I keep bringing up his name. I love his old school kind of feel to the game. I mean, he hit a couple shots against MSU where he just took it, just did a little turnaround fadeaway from the free throw line, bucket. I mean, just his flow, shoots the ball really well. And I think, for him, his defensive – him on the defensive side doesn't get much talk, doesn't get a lot of pub. And I think it should. He averages a block a game. So I think, that's something that is really key for them. And I got Ohio State winning that one.
I love that. Ohio State. Why did I guess, John, he was going to say Ohio State? That's okay, though.
We got 3 in a row. Right now.
Yeah, he backed it up good. John, who you got at Ohio State at Iowa and why?
I like Ohio State, too. I agree with Terry because I like Ohio State's perimeter players. And I think they'll make Westcamp put the ball on the floor. They'll make Bohannon put the ball on the floor. Just don't give those guys the open 3. That's what they live for. So take it from them. And Garza, Chuck Daly, when the Pistons used to play the Lakers, he would single cover Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to make the Lakers pass the ball into him. Do you know why?
Why?
Because in the fourth quarter, Jabbar's going to get tired. you know, and it comes time to win that game, he's not going to be quite as effective. I think the same things with Garza. I wouldn't be so quick to double team him. I wouldn't let Bohannon and Westcamp get off on me, and I think Ohio State will do that. And I agree. I've always said on our first telecast, Iowa can't guard me or you. And they don't get back on defense. And I like Ohio State in this game.
So they can't guard a park car with a Uzi, huh? Okay, I like that. So I'll stay with you, John. How about Maryland and Penn State? Maryland and Penn State.
Well, you know, it's interesting that in the interview with Tom Izzo, he was talking about Georgetown beating Creighton and Villanova losing. And it's really hard. These teams are so unpredictable. Maryland has been a funny team. They've got a couple wins that I didn't think they would get. And then most of the time they've played, which I think is a subpar game. I like Penn State at home. Penn State's on a roll a little bit, tasting a little bit, and I think they'll beat Maryland.
Okay. What about you, Terry?
I think so, too. I know last show we mentioned how Penn State is kind of turning that corner and in a good way. Not the opposite way, but in a good way, turn that corner to some success. And that big win, a 72-56 win, I believe, over Wisconsin, I'm tired of picking against the Nittany Lions, man. I think I picked them for the last couple of weeks, and I've been wrong. And so I think they really have proven to me there might be some kind of secret camera hidden somewhere around here that is giving them a telegraph of what I'm saying. And so they have a little motivation, but I'm going to pick them this week. I got Penn State.
Okay, there it is. I'm going to stay with you. Wisconsin at Illinois, two top programs in the Big Ten. Wisconsin at Illinois. What do you think, Terry?
This game, I really thought hard about this one. And, you know, I went through all the statistics and all the stats for this one. And, you know, I really like the Sumo. I really like his game.
He's a pro. He's a pro.
He's a professional scorer. He gets to the line really well. He really knows how to, you know, use his body to get the shot off he wants. A lot of people don't alter his shots, which is something I love out of a guard who gets to the rim. He doesn't let size really hurt his shot or hurt his chances to make the bucket. So I think that's a big thing from him. And one thing, he averaged 4 assists. So he's able to get his guys going. Trent Frazier is a really good perimeter shooter for them. And so I really like Illinois in this one. They've been playing really well after the win. Indiana had them on the ropes for a little bit, but I think they're riding that high from the Iowa game, getting that big win. So I have Illinois in this one.
What are you thinking, John?
Well, I agree with Terry. I like Illinois. I said it the first time he had me on. I like that team a lot. I like Frazier and the Sumo. They're really good. And I don't think that Wisconsin can stay with them. I think Illinois can speed them up a little bit. They can make them start their offense just a foot farther or 2 feet farther than usual. I think they can run them. I like Illinois in this game.
Okay, I like that. I want to shout out to Tom Rose, who's been a good follower of ours and whatnot. Looking forward to looking at his great product, that he's going to be sharing with us a little later. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. I want to stay with you right now, John. Let's talk about Michigan State and Michigan. My understanding that should be at the end of the month. That's Michigan State,
Nebraska Sunday.
Yeah, that's going to be there. But I'm talking about coming to Michigan State at Michigan. What do you think about that? Well, Michigan at Michigan State.
You know, I agree with Coach Izzo. He said a few things in your interview. The backup big fella from Iowa came in and got, I believe, 12. And Malik Hall, twice in that game, just nonchalantly gave him a wide open three-pointer because he wasn't paying attention and he didn't close on him. You know, and it's the little things. You know, and Michigan State did better Tuesday than they had the previous 2 games. I think you saw a little progress. They put the ball in the basket. But then again, they come down and they're down 2, and they get a couple shots. Langford and Henry. Henry, instead of taking the shot, is about 3 feet, 4 feet from the basket on his left-hand side, and ends up turning the ball over because he wasn't looking at the basket to take the ball to the hoop or shoot a floater. He didn't want to take that shot. Okay? So I think that Michigan State is really hurt in that particular spot. They don't have someone who wants the ball at crunch time. And I think that Michigan, we don't know what's going to happen. Did you read what Juwan Howard said? They're in their rooms, their dorms. They're being sent food. They gave them stretch bands, and they're running in place. They're not playing basketball. And now they're saying they're not going to come back till possibly the 18th of February against Rutgers. Who knows? How is this going to affect this team? It's going to, they're not playing every day. How can they be as sharp? Now this from February 18th, it gives them a chance maybe to get 3 weeks, 4 weeks before Big Ten tournament, or so who knows what we're going to get. So this gives Michigan State an opportunity, but Michigan has too much talent.
I get it.
I
totally agree.
Orlando said earlier is a great equalizer.
It sure is. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to give you a heads up, John. We got Iowa and Indiana on the clock, and we're losing a little bit of time. So, Terry, after you go, let's try to bring those comments in. I want us all to be able to get our comments in for our Streets of Walking podcast network, as well as everyone's listening. So, Terry, what's your take on Michigan State and Michigan?
One thing about MSU, they struggle in the post. I think, that's something that is kind of worrisome for me against a team like Michigan with Hunter Dickinson in there. And, really, and I think he really controls the glass in there. And Livers coming in, they got to guard a little bit better on the perimeter, which I think they did it really well against Iowa. But instead of Iowa, they like to shoot. Michigan likes to penetrate in for the most part and then kick out the shooters. So I would say right now I'm going to go with Michigan. Things could change because I'm not sure about how well they will play. But at this moment right now, from what I've seen, I'm going to go with Michigan.
Okay, I think that's fair enough. John, Iowa versus Indiana. What do you think?
Well, I saw something interesting. Archie Miller was 18 games over 500 with games that were decided by 10 points or fewer when he was at Dayton. He's about 14 under 500 of these games at Indiana. They can't seem to do what they need to do. They had Illinois, like Terry said, they had them on the ropes. And I think Iowa, like we said, is going to lose to Ohio State. That means Iowa is going to play Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. For that particular reason, I'm going to take Indiana in this game. I think Iowa loses tonight and comes back and loses Sunday. I don't think they got enough to play 3 games in a week. I don't think they got it in.
Yeah, a true basketball insider right there. Terry, with the remaining time, who do you have, Iowa or Indiana?
I think with this one, I'm going to go with Iowa just because I feel like I've saw with the Indiana versus Illinois game, I think it's hard to see and to not pick against a team that's so consistent. Iowa's pretty consistent, I would say, for the most part. And Indiana just has so many inconsistency, lapses. They're really, they don't put games together. I'm lost for words because it's so weird because they play so well in some games, like how they beat Iowa before, and then we see them kind of just lay an egg against other teams, and it's like that's not the same Indiana team I saw in these big games. So just for that reason, I guess with that explanation, I probably could pick Indiana, but I'm going to go with Iowa just because I've seen them play well in so many games. And I think after that loss against Ohio State, I think Indiana's going to really play their hearts out. But I think Iowa's going to kind of feel themselves to play well.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. Big Ten picks with John, the basketball insider, as well as Terry McCord. We're wrapping up. We're coming to the hour. And this has been a great show. We talked about a number of things. John, I can't tell you how much we appreciate the lifeblood you've injected into our show. You keep Terry on his toes with his picks and his research. You always hear his notepad ruffling because he has all that information in there. I want to thank Orlando, Watkins, Houston, keeping us together with this great platform. I want to thank people who peeked in on us, Tom Rose, with Grip Spritz. We're going to talk a little bit more about that really soon. We appreciate that. And with that being said, we want to thank the Streets of Watching Podcast Network. I want to thank all these high school athletes out here who are getting ready to get back to play. We want you to play safe and play smart. And with that being said, thank you guys for supporting the SPS Edge Show. And we'll see you guys next week.